Coming up on Fox Valley in Focus, CASA and PADS, acronyms for two organizations with the power to change the lives of children in the court system and the homeless in our community. We'll find out what services are offered by each in Kendall County and how you can help next on Fox Valley in Focus. Welcome to Fox Valley in Focus. I'm Cindy Bravos. Just a decade ago, Kendall County was identified as one of the fastest growing counties in the United States. By 2012, Kendall County was also ranked among counties with the highest foreclosure rates in Illinois. 1 in every 13 households is now in some state of foreclosure. Preparing for its 4th year, Kendall County PADS provides services to the homeless 7 days a week. Joining us now is Anne Engelhardt, one of the founders of Kendall County PADS and the executive director. Anne, thank you for being with us today. I cannot believe it's 4 years since the seed was planted for this organization.
Yes, and the time has gone fast, and we've served a lot of people in 4 years. Over the last 3 seasons, that's just winter times, 26 weeks. We go from mid-October to mid-April. In 3 winters, we've served 178 different people, men, women, and a few children.
And when the dialogue first started, there were people that said, there's not a homeless problem in Kendall County, and yet you prove them wrong, unfortunately.
Well, I think there always has been, and we just have a lot more evidence of homelessness now. Of course, we have our own data to show that we have been serving homeless people, but also just information pieces that we can gather from the county are indicators of the need in the county and that homelessness does exist. You just mentioned the foreclosures. We know that even though the foreclosures were at a high of 9%, there's still 6% foreclosure rate in the county. The number of children registered in the public school system, kindergarten through 12th grade, has almost doubled. 4 years ago, there were 122 children registered, and last year there were 270. And we don't see too many of those children, but it's just one of those indicators that we know that homelessness exists.
That it's the next layer of statistics.
And food stamps have gone up in the last 3 years from about 5,800 to 8,800 people who are now receiving food assistance. So we know that the need is there, and we just want to be able to provide that place for people who have basically lost everything.
Well, as a founder of this organization, you saw the need. How did you go about putting everything together? How did you get to the point where you are now?
Well, we were really fortunate in the summer of 2010, where about 60 individuals came together after a public meeting, and over the course of that summer, those people broke into committees and basically built the organization using other models of PADS in the suburban areas. They wrote the volunteer handbook, just the whole operational procedures, and helped find the different sites. We're so fortunate that 7 different churches basically stepped forward and said, we will serve as a shelter, each one night a week. And we put the word out, and the community responded. We're just so pleased that we have volunteers. We couldn't do the program at all without our volunteers. It's just, we need about 600 to make it work, and that's 600 in a month. But luckily, they only need to work about 4.5 hours one time a month. So if someone signs up to be a volunteer, they're basically saying, I can help 6 times over the course of the winter. And we find them a place where it fits their schedule. So.
Now, when you talk about, you explored the model, there actually is, I mean, there are many PADS around the country. Let's talk about what the acronym itself stands for.
Public Action to Deliver Shelter, and that's just what we are. We're a not-for-profit organization, and it's totally dependent on its donations from citizens, businesses. The Masons in Oswego and Yorkville have been very generous. We have churches that just donate, and individual people, companies like Wines for Humanity. So we're very fortunate to have the donations that we do to keep the funding there. That helps provide for our some of the basic foods and the cleaning supplies and so on. And the other part is the volunteers. It just has to have the volunteers. We need about 17 each day that break into the different shifts, first, second, and third shifts, and a food team every night prepares a hot meal. So we're grateful that the community has responded that way.
When you were site shopping, what criteria do you need, like for a church or a building, to be able to accommodate what you refer to as guests, which I think is just a wonderful, welcoming way to refer to the people who stay with you?
Our churches just stepped forward because they just felt like that was the right thing to do. And you don't have to have a lot. You just need a place to prepare some meals or an oven to keep some casseroles warm, that type of thing. And we only take 15 people at a time, which is what we're equipped to do in the size of our buildings. We would not turn anyone away, but we have enough mattresses, blankets, pillows, towels, and things like that at each site so that we can accommodate 15 people. And that's all the churches needed to do. They just said, we'll help. So that was a good thing.
All right. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Anne Engelhardt. Don't go away.
Listen, I know you're upset, but it was just one date. And dating's like the stock market. There's ups and downs and ups and so always buy low.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who would love to put up with you.
It begins innocently enough. You don't return a phone call. You break a date at the last minute. But in fact, it's the beginning of a pattern. And soon, your friend with mental illness realizes you're avoiding them. But what if you knew that your friendship was the key to their recovery? Would you still lock them out of your life?
Welcome back to Fox Valley in Focus. We're talking with Anne Engelhardt, one of the founders and the executive director of the Kendall County PADS. And you spoke so highly of your volunteers and what a critical part they are of your organization. If someone were to want to volunteer, can they still get in on the training? Your season starts in October.
Absolutely. We do have some trainings at each of the churches coming up next week, actually. But even if someone were wanting to volunteer and they don't even hear about PADS until December or January, we would always accept them as a volunteer. And they would just be placed with a seasoned volunteer, so they would learn what to do. And we have an extensive volunteer manual that would really help them become acquainted with all the things that are expected of them in their role at the shelter site. But they certainly can get involved. Just go to the website and register online. It's the easiest way. kendallcares.org. So we would love to have them.
Well, let's talk a little bit about what the volunteers do. Someone may say, well, I want to help, but I don't know how. Or I'm not sure I'm comfortable with this. What opportunities are there? There
are different opportunities. If you'd like to meet the homeless people, and that's a very rewarding part of this whole organization, that would be, you'd want to sign up for shift 1 if there are any openings left. That's usually closed the fastest. But shift 1 goes from 6:30 to 11. And then the middle of the night shift, the guests are sleeping, but all our sites have Wi-Fi, so people can bring their electronics or their phones or iPads or whatever, and they can bring things to read. So that's 4 hours in the middle of the night from approximately 3 to, I said they were 11 o'clock to 3, and then third shift goes from 3 o'clock till It's about 7:30 in the morning. The guests leave at 7, but there's usually a little bit of cleanup to do. We have a separate food crew at night, and they work together, 4 or 5 people, talk to each other and prepare a part of the evening meal. And the morning group also has the responsibility of preparing the breakfast, usually on site. It can be pancakes or eggs or toast, cereal, whatever. And we also have laundry drivers that take care of the linens, which get laundered every single day at the Kendall County Public Safety Center. The inmates at the jail actually do the laundry, so our guests have clean bedding every single day. So there are many different ways that people can help.
And now you're adding a 4th shift.
Yes. We're not quite ready to open it, but we hope by November or December we will have this one running. It'll go from about 7:15 in the morning to 9:15. Daylight hours. You're not dealing with any food or mattresses and things like that, but we think it might be a very important shift. Most of our homeless guests come because, well, for lots of reasons, but we do know that they're unemployed. And we've always tried to provide information to them as to how to find the jobs, but this particular shift is going to be a little bit more focused, where they will go to a shelter that's not at the same place they were during the night, but it's just for those 2 hours. And we're going to have computers there and a couple volunteers that will be able to assist them in finding websites that post jobs locally and help them figure out some transportation options, like through Kendall Area Transit, and fill out applications online, write resumes. It'll be that focus. Keep them out of the cold for 2 more hours, and also really give them that extra helping hand to finding employment.
Well, one of the extraordinary things about your organization is it's not just a place to crash at night or a warm meal. It's also kind of connecting people with the resources they need
Exactly.
To reestablish themselves, to get back on track.
Right. And from the very beginning, even though our mission is to provide a safe temporary shelter and nourishing meals, there's always the component of hospitality. We want them to feel welcomed, and that they can trust us to be there for them and trust us to help them. So we serve as kind of the connector to other organizations and places where they can get help. One big one is the Kendall County Health Department, which has always had a representative on our board, and they can get counseling help. In fact, the Health Department provides a counselor 1 night a week that they can begin to establish some relationships and get some appointments set up, because a lot of times there's that component that they come with a lot of mental duress and other things that they need to work through. We connect them to agencies that can provide them dental service or eyeglasses. Other things on site that they can get, and this is another way people in the public can help us. We give them warm socks anytime they want them, which for some is every day. We provide gloves, scarves, hats. People can send those in. Always deliver them to the food pantry with your box or bag labeled pads, and then it'll get in with our supplies. We have a lady who cuts their hair once a month, comes on site. We give them clothing vouchers, and every week that they're with us, they get a prepaid laundry card so they can do their own personal laundry at a local laundromat. So we have to think about what it would be like to live in their shoes, and what kinds of things would I need if all I have is a bicycle or maybe the back seat of my car. And we know that over half our guests don't even have vehicles. They come with a backpack or a duffel bag, and that's it. And they've really reached the end of their resources. So we try to, like I said, give them our kindness and our friendliness first, and then connect them with other people and places in the county where they can get some additional help.
Of all those things that you speak about, I think the greatest gift is the gift of hope that you provide for them.
And that's what we hope to do.
Well,
exactly.
We wish you a good season, Anne. Thanks for being with us. Don't go away. Up next, we'll take a closer look at CASA Kendall County.
Everyone has friends. There's online friends. Friends to go out with on a Saturday night. Friends to hang out with and do nothing. Friends who show up on moving day. And then there are the friends who'll be there if someone is dealing with a mental illness. Are you one of those friends?
I remember how much you said you liked wine. Oh.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who would love to put up with you.
Welcome back to Fox Valley in Focus. Let's now take a look at a national network of volunteers dedicated to this simple mission statement. We are the child's voice in court. That's the mission statement of CASA, an acronym for Court-Appointed Special Advocates. Joining us now is Chairman of the CASA Kendall County Board of Directors, Andrew Smith. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Cindy.
Thanks for being here. You come to the CASA board with a legal background. How did you happen to get involved in the organization?
Well, I had heard of the organization actually being in court one morning. One of the courtrooms that's kind of on the north side of the building was kind of protected, and you weren't allowed to go in there unless your case was heard. So I kind of inquired and found out that it was the juvenile court and that CASA Kendall County was an organization that was involved in it. So I kind of did some research, and then I approached one of the board members about joining the board.
Well, court can be, for those of us who are not in the legal profession, court can be very intimidating, even for adults, but especially for children. And let's talk about some of the kids who are in court and why they're there and the role the organization plays in their lives.
Absolutely. Well, generally it starts as there's some report file with DCFS. They will investigate, they'll determine whether or not the situation warrants removing a child from a home that's involving abuse or neglect or substance abuse. At that point, the matter gets referred to the state's attorney's office. If they decide to press charges, a court proceeding will begin. At the first court proceeding, the court will appoint a CASA to represent the child's best interests. There's lots of different parties involved. You'll have the public defender's office and the other parties I've talked about, but they have different interests involved, whether it's the state defending the alleged offenders. We look at it from the child's perspective, what's good for them, what is the best environment they can be in.
And so your organization, well, give us a little history how CASA came to Kendall County.
I think it started in the mid-'60s. I think it was a juvenile court judge in Pennsylvania saw that there was a need to have an advocate for a child, similar type of proceeding that we have today. From that, we have National CASA, which is a very large organization, and I believe there are almost 900 affiliate programs throughout the nation. In Illinois, we have Illinois CASA, and they're kind of the overseers of the various county CASAs, and we're part of CASA Kendall County.
And you are responsible for training volunteers, providing that training for them. How do you find your volunteers?
Well, it's actually not very difficult to find volunteers because these children are children in our communities. They're on your kids' baseball team, in your kids' band, they're your grandkids, they're with them, and so everyone finds out about CASAs because these children are in foster care, and there are these people that are visiting them. They come to schools, they visit the teachers, they visit the doctors, they visit all of these children, the people who care for the children. And so people learn about CASA, they go onto our website, and from that point they can learn how to become a volunteer.
And always the question is in social services, where does the money come from? How do we run a CASA?
CASA is, I would say, 90% run by individual donations. We get some support from various grants that we prepare and file, but a lot of it comes from individual people that are in our community, and we do have some corporate sponsorships.
And as the board chair, how much of a working board are you?
I'd say we're very active. We're a relatively small board. There's about 7 of us right now, and a lot of them have been on the board since CASA Kendall County was founded in 1998. And so they're very committed and very passionate about it. And so we do all the fundraisers, we attend all the events, we try to do that type of community awareness.
And you have a fundraiser that's just around the corner.
We do. We have partnered with the Paramount Theater in Aurora, and November 9th is the Miss Saigon production, and you can go ahead and buy tickets on behalf of CASA, and then it'll grant you admission to Miss Saigon and then a post-show reception with light refreshments.
For those people who may not know how they can help CASA, what opportunities are there? If they choose not to become an advocate, what other opportunities?
There's a lot of opportunities, all varying in the types of commitment, especially time. Well, number one, you can be a volunteer, and I think we're going to have a volunteer later on the show to talk about that. But we also have this list of what we call Friends of CASA, people that, don't have the time to be a volunteer but want to participate in the events, help us with the fundraising, try to go out there and create awareness for our community. Also, we do have vacancies on the board right now. Again, we're a small board and we're always trying to grow because the more diversity we have on the board, the better.
All right, so what type of volunteers would you be looking for on the board? Obviously, we have a legal person right now, but are you looking for special niche areas of expertise?
Anyone that has a heart for children, and especially in this situation, those children that are in difficult situations, whether it's a business owner or someone that's part-time, we're looking for anyone that has a heart for this situation.
And what kind of obligation does that usually mean as far as time and commitment?
Well, to join the board, we have monthly meetings. We meet at our office and we have meetings with the executive director. Otherwise, it's just a matter of our participating in the various fundraising events that we have throughout the year. So the time commitment is rather small, but the benefit is great because you really can have an impact in a child's life.
Have you gone through the training? Tell us a little bit about what the training involves.
Well, the training, we do it probably multiple times throughout the year. It's fairly comprehensive. It's probably over 6 or 7 nights. Our advocate supervisor does all the training. It's pursuant to a CASA manual. And the reason why it's so comprehensive is you're dealing with a lot of different interested parties. Number one, you are dealing with children and you need to know how to communicate with them. You're also dealing with the court. You're going to stand up in court. You're going to have to file reports with them. And you have to understand the other interests that are involved through the state's attorney's office, the public defender's office, and DCFS.
To understand that relationship. Well, you were right, because when we come back, we will meet an advocate from CASA right after this break. Thank you so much, Andrew.
Mom!
What?
You can't find Ichabod.
What?
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who would love to put up with you.
It can be a little awkward when your friend tells you he's been diagnosed with a mental illness. But what's even more awkward is, if you're not there for him, he's less likely to recover.
I'm here to help, man, whatever it takes.
Welcome back. Joining us now is Dona Para, an advocate with CASA Kendall County. Thanks for being here. I understand you are the longest serving advocate in the CASA Kendall County program.
That is correct. I just celebrated my 10-year anniversary with Kendall County CASA.
And you have an interesting connection to television shows. So share that with us.
Absolutely. I had moved to Kendall County and was looking for a way to get involved with some of the kids in the community. And I saw one of these 2 a.m. cable shows about the CASA organization, and I made a note and said, this sounds exactly like something I'd want to get involved with. And here I am 10 years later, serving the kids of our community.
Well, hopefully some of our viewers will be inspired to follow your lead. And
absolutely.
What is it about the program that appeals to you, that you found rewarding?
A couple of things. One is, anytime you can make a difference in the life of a child, it's personally rewarding. And in this role, you get to focus solely on the child and what needs to be done for their best interest, whether it's something that needs to be done at school, some sort of therapy that they may need, some sort of extracurricular activity that would make their life better. you're there to help make sure it gets done and collaborate with other professionals on the case.
Let's talk a little bit about the time commitment from the time you initially pursued being a volunteer, the training, and what a typical month is like for you as an advocate.
Okay. After you complete your training, which right now runs about 30 hours, you get sworn in as an advocate, and if a case needs you, you get assigned a case immediately. And in Kendall, we're fortunate enough to have a nice balance of advocates and cases. So you generally handle one case at a time. And that could include multiple children in a family. So on a given month, you can be doing, in addition to your visits, and we're required to meet with children at least once a month, you can attend staffings at school, you can go to court hearings. You can also talk with other professionals on the case. So from a volunteer commitment, it depends on what's going on, but it could be anywhere from 10 to 20 hours a month.
Let's talk about the confidentiality, the responsibility, and the trust that comes with being an advocate.
Yeah. It's one of the cardinal rules of being an advocate is keeping the information confidential. And when involved on a case, we don't use our last name. So we're referred to simply by our first name and last initial. And our mantra is to listen and gather information, don't necessarily share it. So.
And you say you can go to the school and talk to people in the child's lives. Let's talk about some of the children. The age ranges, and without breaching confidentiality, what some of the cases entail?
They're all children that are guardians of the state through DCFS, and in many cases they are also placed with another agency. So for example, our Children's Homestead, Illinois Mentor, and they range anywhere from an infant to 18. And in my 10 years, I've had an opportunity to work with all age ranges.
And when you talk about the just the role, it almost sounds like an aunt or a fairy godmother, just someone that child can look up to kind of guide them where they're not getting guidance anywhere else.
That is a great way to describe us, because for most children, that's how they view us. In fact, if I go to one of my children's sporting events, I don't say I'm a CASA. I say I'm a friend of the family. And if you're invited to a birthday party, for example, with a family, you may be introduced as a CASA, but other guests will view you simply as a friend of the family. So it's, we're non-threatening for the children, and they know they can count on us.
Now, one of the questions I was going to ask is, how do you do this without getting personally involved? But there's no way, from what you're describing, that you can do that, because there's a connection since you take this child's interests to heart.
Oh, sure. And you do get personally engaged, but you never lose your objectivity. And I think that's really important, because when you take a case, you leave your values at the door and your views at the door, and you focus on what really needs to be done for the best interest of that child.
Typically, how long are you with a child from the time the case initiates until I guess the case would be resolved in the courts?
It varies, but we use 18 months as an average, but it's not unusual to go longer or shorter depending on the situation.
Now, you talked about sometimes there'd be multiple kids in a family.
Yes. It could be multiple kids in the family, and the family could even be in multiple homes. The children could be placed in multiple homes while the case is going on.
So depending on your personal life, you could become more involved in that 20 hours that you talk about.
Absolutely.
If you feel so inclined. We're almost out of time, but one thing you would say to someone considering being a CASA advocate?
If you want to make a difference in the life of a child, there is no better organization to get involved with. And as Andrew mentioned earlier, there's a number of different ways to do that.
Well, Donna, thank you for the good work and inspiring us.
Great. Thank you.
That's all the time we have for this edition of Fox Valley in Focus. I'm Cindy Bravos. As always, thanks for watching. We'd like to thank our guests Anne Engelhardt of Kendall County PADS, as well as Andrew Smith and Dona Para of CASA Kendall County. We'll see you next time.